Hey guys, welcome to this AWS migration module on this AWS course. First, we'll discuss what we will be learning in this session, and later we'll move on to discuss those topics in detail. First, we'll be discussing what is cloud migration. After learning what is cloud migration, then we'll see why it is important. And after that, we'll learn how the migration process works in AWS. Moving on, we'll be learning different strategies. There are 6 R's in migration strategies, and we'll be learning them in detail. After that, we'll learn what is VM migration, and also we'll do a demo on local VM migration, how to shift our local VM into AWS infrastructure. After that, we'll learn what is database migration and do a demo on local database migration. After doing that, we'll be learning more migration services which are available in AWS. After learning all of these concepts, we'll do a quick recap on what we've learned. This is the agenda. Now let us move on with the session. First, what is cloud migration? And now we are going to see all the concepts on cloud migration. First, let us discuss what is cloud migration in detail. Cloud migration is moving data or applications or any local element like a virtual machine to the cloud computing environment. This is your local system, and you have some data here or a database here or a virtual machine over here, and you've done a lot of work on them. You have all the data, all of your stuff which is over here, and you don't want to redo it on a cloud provider. It may be AWS or Azure or GCP, so you don't want to redo it over there. What you can do is you can migrate the local stuff into your cloud. That is what meant by cloud migration. So you can migrate your local VM or your local database into AWS. So right now we are going to learn AWS cloud migration. So moving this into AWS. That is what we are going to do, and that is what cloud migration means in the simplest terms. Next, why migration is important. For this, let me give you a simple example. Why do anyone need cloud migration or a business needs cloud migration? So there is this business owner who wants to expand his business and he's thinking of a solution. So what to do? And then he's thinking to expand his business. So to improve profits, he wants to expand his business. And also he wants to expand the business globally and get a global audience. But he is not getting the right plan right now. Somebody has suggested him to use cloud migration techniques and move his entire business to cloud. Now he gets the idea from someone and he starts using cloud, and he shifts his entire architecture into cloud, and also he now has global reach. Cloud architectures already have data centers across the globe and have so many availability zones. You can just host your particular application, or you can host your database, whichever. You can host it in one particular region and migrate it to, or you can replicate it in various data centers to give access to all the countries in the world. If you want a global reach, using a cloud provider helps you, and it also reduces costs because they already have this setup. You just have to pay for what you use. He has done that. He has shifted his complete business into cloud, and now he has reduced cost. He's happy. His application has a global reach now. Everyone can download and access his application. It's not restricted to a particular place. It has a global reach now. Anybody can use it because of the global reach of cloud providers. And also he's increasing in profits, and also the customer base has increased because of the global reach. So he had, for example, maybe his application was only available in India, but right now after using a cloud provider, he has shifted to USA, to European countries, and also other Asian countries. So right now his business is growing, his customer base is growing, and his profits are also growing. And these are the benefits of, or why migration will be important. Because this particular cloud, why? Because this particular business owner took his local business, which has an on-premise setup, to the cloud and made a lot of profits. This is one of the main reasons businesses shift to cloud. The two reasons are to get a global reach and to reduce cost. Moving on, we'll see few topics which we discussed right now in points. So the first thing is scale according to the application traffic. When you move to a cloud provider, you can enable scaling groups. For example, if you have 1,000 customers every day and you have 10 servers for it, 10 servers can accommodate 1000 customers. But suddenly on a particular day, you avail discounts and there are 10,000 customers on your site. Right now, 10 servers cannot manage all the 10,000 customers' traffic. What do? You can just enable auto scaling in your cloud provider or in AWS. When you do that, when the number of customers increase or when the application's traffic increases, your servers will automatically create more servers. Your cloud provider will create more servers to accommodate that traffic. For example, you have 10,000 users now. So for 1000 users, if 10 servers is enough, for 10,000 users, you will have to produce 90 more servers. So AWS does that for you and it scales according to the application traffic. And once it comes back to normal, once only 1000 customers are again back to your website every day, so now it automatically terminates all the servers, and right now only 10 servers will be running. This reduces cost because you will only be paying for the servers which were running for a particular period of time, and then reduce operational costs. When it scales according to application traffic, then you'll only need more servers when there is more application traffic. When it reduces, it automatically terminates and you will not need to pay for them. You'll have to only pay for the time which you are using those servers or any application on AWS. And then faster application implementation. If it is in cloud, for example, if it is in an on-premise setup, it'll take some time. Your internet may be down, anything can happen in your on-premise setup and you'll have to take care of that. But in a cloud provider, they take care of everything, they maintain it for you, and for implementing your applications, you can just upload it once again and there won't be any downtime. The application will already be running, and when you upload your new application, it changes and you can start using a new application right then after that. And then business can have a global reach. This is one of the main points why businesses shift to cloud, because they can bring their product, they can take their product to a global level. And then better disaster recovery strategies. If you have an on-premise setup, you will have a backup system. But what if even the backup system is destroyed and your main on-premise system had some disaster? If you store all of this data in a cloud environment, you will be having a backup in another availability zone, or you can also keep the backup in another region. If you are keeping your entire applications architecture running on a cloud provider on AWS in USA, you can keep the same, you can replicate the same to another region in Europe or in an Asian country. Even when there is a disaster in USA, if you lose all your data and content, it will be available in another data center in Europe or Asia. So you can use that and start rebuilding it in USA. So this has better disaster recovery strategies and you can retract your data easily from cloud. And then better application and data security. Cloud enables data security because it is on their data centers, and AWS always, their first priority is cloud security. And when your data is over there and you pay for it, they will make sure that your data is secure. Now, migration process in AWS. So in AWS, we usually do these 4 steps before migrating a local application into the cloud. The first one is migration preparation and business planning, and then portfolio discovery and planning. After that, there are 2 steps combined into one single step, that is migration and validation and application design. Finally, after doing all of these stuff, what we'll be doing is we'll put them into the cloud for operation. So let us discuss these topics one by one. First, migration preparation and business planning. When a company decides to shift the local architecture into the cloud, first they'll have to prepare themselves for that migration. What and all data they need, what is exactly the application they are going to push into the cloud, how it should work, how the security measures should be made, how the business should run after that, what are the products they are going to move to the cloud. They have to plan the business and the migration according to their own business. So they'll have to plan all of that and keep it aside. So after preparing how to do it and what and all should be used to do it, then they have to do portfolio discovery and planning. In this step, what you're going to do is you will plan for the uncovered stuff which you created in the business planning and migration preparation. So you would have discussed about what has to be done, what environment has to be launched, how the architecture should look, So you would have planned all of these business use cases. So in portfolio discovering and planning, what exactly happens is they'll test the readiness for migrating it. The readiness in the sense to migrate an application into the cloud, all of the required essential softwares and the environments, the instances, the virtual machines, the databases, all of them should be created, and if it is needed, they should be connected according to the plan which was created first. And also the business should be made that it uses the cloud processes all over. After that, it should not use the on-premise setup because they are going to move to the cloud. You will also have to set up a secure AWS account which your entire company's softwares and applications are hosted on. All of this happens in this stage. And also you'll have to discuss what migration strategy we are going to use while migrating the application. The next step would be migration and validation and application design. These are the two steps which will happen in the third place. So in this step, all the applications will be designed, and also after they get designed, they'll have to be designed in application level so that they can go be launched on the cloud. If an organization has 10 different applications, they'll have to design the application for how it will suit the cloud. If it is a desktop or some kind of a website, they'll have to change the code, they'll have to change the structure in order to launch it to the cloud. And also after doing that, then they'll have to migrate it to the cloud. And after migrating it, they'll have to check how it works on the cloud. If it works fine, they'll have to validate it. So that is what this step suggests. So in this step, all of the applications will be taken care of and they'll be created according to the cloud needs after changing the code and all of the stuff which is needed. After doing that, then they'll migrate it, and after migrating it, then it will be validated. After validating, all the applications will be on the cloud infrastructure. This is the step which comes right after planning, because this is one of the important steps and a lot of time goes into this particular process. So there will be a lot of time put into creating the application which would be scalable, highly available on the cloud, and also after that it should be properly migrated and validated. And finally, the operation step. After migrating to the cloud, what do you do is you turn off your legacy systems, you cancel that entire architecture, you use the cloud architecture hereafter. So you'll have to create a system which can constantly monitor, manage the applications on the cloud instead of the on-premise setup. You will have to be constantly iterating your application so that it does not go against cloud needs, because cloud is an ever-changing technology. It will be keep on changing. The software's versions will be different. It will be keep on adding. It will be keep on updating. So even your application has to be managed and it has to be up to date to the cloud technologies. That's what you'll have to constantly monitor and maintain it. This is the basic process in AWS for migration. The next thing we're going to see is the 6 R's in migration strategies. In this particular slide, this is the process where we actually design the application and migrate it. For doing this particular step, there are 6 different ways. That is, there are 6 different R's for migration. There are 6 different migration strategies. So let us see them one by one. The first would be rehost, and then replatform, and then repurchase, refactor or re-architect, then retire, and also retain. So these are the 6 different migration strategies and they follow a different pattern. So let us discuss that pattern. This is the architecture which was provided by AWS themselves. So this is how you can use these 6 R's for migration. So you can see over here: rehost, replatform, repurchase, refactor, retain, and retire. These are the 6 migration strategies, and each of them follow a different set of procedures to migrate the applications which we have in our local system. So as we already know, discover is the process where we plan for migrating, we change the business outlines, we change the plans which we have, and then we'll have to, then after discussing all of it, after choosing what we are going to do, how we are going to migrate, then we'll have to determine what migration strategy we are going to use. We are going to use rehost, replatform, or any one of these. Now let us discuss what is rehost, replatform, repurchase, refactor, retain, and retire separately. So first, rehost. Rehosting is the simplest method or the fastest method used for migration. Rehosting is nothing but just hosting your on-premise setup onto the cloud using automation tools provided by AWS. You can see here You can either automate it and use migration tools to push it for validation and push it for production, or you can do rehosting manually also. But you'll have to install, configure, and deploy your applications by yourself. For example, you will have to create VM import functions. For example, you have a local VM which is running few applications which you need for your business. So you have a VM running which has a particular website. You have another VM running, has a database. You want both of them on the cloud. What you will do is you can actually export that virtual machine and push it to the AWS cloud. And after pushing it to the AWS cloud, you don't need to install or configure anything because you already have it installed in your VM and you're using that VM on the cloud as an AMI. So you can install it, you can configure it, and also you'll have to change some settings for deploying it on the cloud because the port number might vary. The port number you use on your on-premise setup might be different, and the port number on the AWS cloud might be different. So you can do either manually or automatically. It goes to validation and transition and production. These are the common states. Whatever migration strategy you use, this is the operation stage. Whatever migration strategy you use, these are common. And after that, replatform. When organizations use replatform is when they need to reduce the time to shift the databases or the web services they have on their on-premise setup. For example, you have a VM which runs a MySQL database and you want to push it to the AWS cloud. So you can either use a migration tool to push that virtual machine which is running the database instance, which is having that MySQL server to the cloud. You can actually migrate that local database into an RDS instance. That is a relational database service provided by AWS, especially for database services, database as a service. If you use an RDS instance by pushing the content of your local database into the RDS instance, you will be reducing time after you move it to the cloud. So if you move a VM, you will have to configure it by yourself. But if you move it to RDS, all the configurations, monitoring, management will be taken care by AWS. So you modify, determine the platform, modify the infrastructure. After that, you can use migration tools to push that particular RDS into various regions, various availability zones, and then validate it and then operate it and then repurchase. Repurchasing is like moving your local applications. For example, you use a CRM or an ERP tool on your on-premise setup. So now what you're going to do is you're going to move your CRM into an application. For example, the world's best CRM tool is Salesforce, as far as I know. To move your CRM to Salesforce, that is, you are buying Salesforce and you are moving your entire CRM tool into Salesforce, or you are moving the contents of the CRM tool into Salesforce. So you are buying a software as a service. You are using SaaS after that. That is what repurchasing means. And after moving it to SaaS, you will be installing it and setting up on the cloud. That can be done by purchasing the tools which is required for your particular kinds of applications. For CRM, it might be Zoho or Salesforce. For any application which you want, you can use the particular applications. As I told you, for CRM, it might be Salesforce. For ERP, it might be some other tool. So you can do that. And after that, refactor. Refactor is completely changing all the settings, all the features to a cloud-based service. What they do is they'll redesign the entire application to be equal to up to date to the cloud services. For example, you might have an application, but that might not have the same available features or the scalability of a cloud service. They redesign the entire application as a cloud service. They develop code for that application, and then what they do is they configure the particular application on the cloud for scalability, availability. Also, they push it to multiple regions and multiple availability zones for highly making it highly available. So after doing all these, they'll actually push all these services to the cloud. They redesign the application and they just push it to the cloud, and it runs as a cloud application. Here they are redesigning their local application completely into a new cloud service which will be running on the cloud so that they can switch off their old service. Here they are not pushing their local application or their on-premise setup into the cloud. Here they are going to push their new changed application, their redesigned application into the cloud. Then retain process is like You only migrate the applications which you think will go successful on the cloud platform. You might have 10 different applications, but you only want to push two of them, or you only want to migrate two of those applications into the cloud because you think the other applications won't do so well on the cloud, or you don't want to invest again on those applications. So that is retain. And then retire is like you ask each of the departments for each of the application how it's running on. As per AWS, they told that on any business, at least 10% of their IT sector is useless. What they do is they switch off those 10%. That's it. They're not going to do any other change. They'll just switch off or turn off those applications, those things they do, which are basically useless. That 10% of their business will be closed so that they don't put money on that and waste money on that. So this is also one of the strategy they use. But the most used is rehost, replatform, repurchase, and refactor. So we've seen the 6 migration strategies. So now let us move on to the next topic. Now we've come to virtual machine migration. As I told you, in this session, we'll be learning virtual machine migration and also database migration. First, we'll be seeing virtual machine migration. What is it? And then also we'll see how to move the local virtual machine onto the AWS cloud. After that, we'll learn how to move database into the RDS instance. And after that, we'll be discussing all of those concepts which we have learned in this particular session. So let's move on. So virtual machine. What is virtual machine basically? Virtual machine migration is migrating your local virtual machine to Amazon EC2, or you can shift your entire architecture which is lying on your local or on-premise setup to the AWS cloud. So how to do it? You have your local virtual machine. It can be on any operating system. It can be an Ubuntu instance or a Windows instance or a Red Hat instance or a CentOS instance. What you can do is you can just push it as an AMI. You can create an Amazon machine image and you can use that Amazon machine image to create multiple instances using that particular machine image. You have one instance, you make it as an AMI, then you can use that AMI to create multiple instances which will have the same content as that particular instance. But this process takes some time because migrating a complete instance will take some time because they'll have to configure the data within the instance and also configure the settings within the instance. Now we've come to the most interesting part and the important part, virtual machine migration. Virtual machine migration is very essential for any organization because most of their applications are running on their virtual machines which they have hosted on their on-premise setup. What they want to do is they want to shift those virtual machines to the AWS cloud. So let us see what it means actually and also see how to move it to the AWS cloud. First, virtual machine migration. It basically means moving your local virtual machine to Amazon EC2 in AWS because Amazon EC2 is the service which provides us virtual machine in AWS. So that's where we are going to shift it to. How it happens? You will have a local virtual machine. It can be on any OS, Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat, CentOS. You will create an AMI using this. You'll export this virtual machine. Using that file, you will create an AMI. Using that AMI, we can create any number of instances we want to. AMIs are the same as what we have all predefined in AWS EC2. We have Amazon Linux, we have Ubuntu, we have Windows, and we can choose any one of them and we can create instances. They are also called AMIs. They are Amazon machine images. We are going to create our own AMI using the exported local virtual machine. Now we'll see what are the steps it takes to create this. First, what you'll have to do is you'll need AWS CLI. So you'll have to download and install it. I already have it installed. I'll show for you to where to install it, where to download it, but I already have it installed, so I'm not going to do that again. And then export your local VM as a VMDK file and upload it to an S3 bucket. And after this, we'll have to use import VM commands to import the virtual machine to AWS. So we'll use some commands in the AWS CLI to do that particular process. After that, we'll be monitoring the import task. That is, we'll be seeing whether the AMI shifting has been completed. AMI creation has been completed in AWS for this local VM. Once the AMI creation is completed, then we'll launch virtual machines. Using AMIs, we can launch virtual machines. So once our AMI is completed, we'll launch a virtual machine using that particular AMI. Now let us see what is the demo we are going to do in this. Local VM migration. What you are going to do is, I'll be creating a Ubuntu server local virtual machine where I'll create a file. I'll just create a file and keep it, and then I'll export that VM. I'll upload it to an S3 bucket, and in that S3 bucket, using that S3 bucket, I'll create an AMI for my VMDK file which is on that S3 bucket. After the AMI gets created, it will take a lot of time, guys. It will take some time to create an AMI. After it gets created, then we can use that AMI to create EC2 instances. This is what we are going to do. Let me start from the first step. Let me show where to download and install AWS CLI and how to configure it.